Thank you. Hello, everyone, and welcome to Meet the Candidates Night. I'm here to say thank you for coming and attending. We're going to, is this too loud? We're going to get started. We've got 4 candidates here, and Ms. Thompson's going to moderate the evening. If you decide you have a question that you'd like to pass on to Ms. Thompson as we're going, just please raise your hand. Mr. Hurdle will come over with a card that you can write your question on and bring it up to Mrs. Thompson. Dare?
Thank you, Kristen. Yeah, I'm Dare Thompson, and I'm the state president of the League of Women Voters, and I just happen to live here in Marlboro, not in Kingston, so I don't know your candidates, and I have no biases because I don't know enough to have a bias. We're sorry that Suzanne Jordan can't be here tonight. I think most of you have heard that her husband died suddenly. It chokes me up, and I don't know her either. Anyway, so she's not here tonight. But I welcome, well, they're going to introduce themselves, and so I think I'm going to get into that right away. I'll tell you something about the timing. And they're set up in order of when they speak, and Mr. Spicer will start, and then Mr. Avalon, I can't see him. Yeah, there is next, and then Mr. Lamb and Mr. Michael. And then on the first question, which will only be a minute, we're going to give them a minute and see if that's working all right. It will be Mr. Avalon, and then Mr. Lamb, and Mr. Michael, and then back to Mr. Spicer and on, and then Mr. Lamb starts. So and when I get confused, they usually know, and vice versa. So it's pretty easy to just see that happening. And that way no one gets the first and last question all the time. And so with that, we're given 3 minutes for opening. I think most of them feel that's a lot and won't use it all, but they have as much time as they need, up to 3 minutes. And we start with Mr. Spicer. Oh, and one other thing I want to say. There are four seats open. 3 of them are full term. 1 of them is a shorter term. I think it's 2 out of the 3 years. And then then there's, did I say that wrong? No.
Candidates, 4 seats.
Yeah. Yes. So, and then the last, so the top 3 winners will get the full term, and then the 4th winning candidate will get the 2 seats. You got that, right? So not a lot of difference. Okay.
Well, good evening, everyone. My name is Stephen Spicer, and a little about myself. I am a retired teacher. I taught regular and special ed to elementary and middle school children. I'm also a retired high school and elementary school principal. My wife, Deborah, is a naval officer, and we have lived in Elster Park for 30 years. I was honored in February when the board asked me to fill Danielle Guido's seat for the rest of the year. And I will say, nothing prepares you to be on a school board like being on a school board. Since joining the school board, I have been immersed in policy discussions, budget planning, district goal setting, building construction tours, recruiting for our new Mahar pre-K program, and toured or read to children in every school in the district. I didn't join the school board to sit in a seat. As almost all the district's principals, quite a few teachers, and hundreds of children can tell you, I have been, and if elected, will continue to be a visible school board member, because you cannot advocate for teachers, children, and their needs if you never see or talk to them. And that's the kind of school board member I will continue to be. Thank you all for coming.
Hi, my name is John Adeline. I feel I'm in good company here. Little about me. I've lived in Ulster County my entire life, which the older I get, the longer that is. I retired after teaching 37 years in the Kingston School District, 35 of which I spent here in Kingston High School. So I have a great deal of affection for and appreciation of the educational opportunities that are given to students at Kingston High School. And I know we often talk about raising graduation rates, and I think that's very, very important. But I also think it's important to remember all those kids that have graduated from this building over the last 100 years that have gone out into the world, across the United States, and have made significant contributions to our way of life. And they started here in Kingston. So I'd like to continue that. My priorities, basically, you can be living under a rock, not to pay attention to the news, is safety of students and staff. That will be a top priority of mine. Not that I'm paranoid, but it is a concern of mine. And the second thing would be to aid the most important component of the district, kids, followed by their parents, and then by teachers, to make their lives easier, to make education more accessible to all of them, with the least amount of stress on them so that they can succeed. Thanks.
Good evening. I'd like to thank the parent group for sponsoring tonight. The current board and administration have done a fabulous job raising the graduation rate and the Second Century Project. That being said, there's still much work to do, both with graduation rate and student and staff safety. Our children are our most important commodity. We have a community they deserve, or as we have as a community, they deserve an outstanding education in a safe and well-maintained environment. First, the graduation rate is steadily improving. However, with a rising number of L's in our community, we need to address the difficulties of these students. The dropout rate in the Hispanic males is alarming. Many of these young men are entering the workforce to assist in supporting their families and will never reach their true potential. Secondly, attendance. If you get a child to school, I can teach the child. I was a teacher for 30 years. Actually 35 years. Our children, many of them walk to school. On bad weather days when it is too cold, the sidewalks are icy or unshoveled, downpours, students walking in the streets, bullied or worried about being bullied or threatened are the reason our walkers have a low attendance rate in comparison. Again, I will tell you as an educator, I can educate any child who is in my classroom. Third, school safety. We must do more to keep our students and staff safe and make them feel safe while in our care. Driving around the district on the one nice day we had this spring, I looked at our buildings, I looked at 5 of our buildings. I could have walked in a door that was open for ventilation, student reentry, or whatever without any difficulty in 5 of those buildings. Having left Kingston as a teacher in 1999 to go back to a junior high concept in Newburgh, I can tell you that we have come a long ways in security and safety. We have a long ways to go because we are at the level that they were at 1999. There are many state and federal and private grants to increase security in public schools. We need to take advantage of these as other districts are and tighten down. This is the sad truth of our society today. I will be a good steward of what we have. When I look at Miller today, and compared to what it was when I taught, 3 years ago when I ran for the board, I was told that that summer the auditorium would see new seating, windows would be repaired. Still waiting for that work to be done. Last concert I attended, a adult sat in a chair in the auditorium and fell to the floor. This is not the kind of facility that I want our children to have. We need to care for what the taxpayer has given us, not at the expense of 1 or 2 buildings that we are currently working on. I will remind you that we are in the business of educating children.
Mr. Lamb, your time is up.
Thank you.
Mr. Michael. Is this being recorded, by the way? So I'll try to remember to say your name before you speak, so people know.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is James Michael.
Let him.
Before I go up with my opening statement, I would like everyone, if you please rise for a moment of silence in the memory of Michael Jordan, my colleagues and friend, Susan Jordan. For the first time 7 years ago, I was asked by many of my friends why I was running for the seat on the school board, and more, what is my agenda and which platform I'm running. My answer was none of the above. I have no agenda, not a platform, I'm not a politician, and I refuse to be one. Politics, we have no place in education, but sadly enough, in New York State, there is so much happening and opening today that affects our students' education. State aid is at the lowest it's ever been, and their funding mandates keep coming at a fast pace. I firmly believe that education is comprised by three components where each one plays an important role. That's about teachers, our students, and taxpayers. I had always admired and respected our teachers and be thankful for their dedication. As board trustee, it's my responsibility to make sure our teachers get enough support by the administration to perform their duties to the fullest, but also there's an ample love and respect for them by everyone in our community. Every child in our community is like my child. When a student comes to school, we must make sure they are welcome in our buildings and there is a place where he or she feels the warmth and the safety. That's our most responsibility, to give them the best education they deserve and give the opportunity to each one to reach his or her most potential. I have served on the Audit and Finance Committee for the last 7 years. My main concern was always to have the taxpayers in mind when the decision is made how to spend their tax dollars. Myself and the business administration have always been fiscally responsible. Serving on the school board had always been challenging, but also rewarding. So if you give me the opportunity for 3 more years, I will continue to do my best for the interests of our students, our teachers, and our community as a whole. Thank you.
Thank you. We have some very easy questions. One of them was asked specifically to Mr. Avalon, who would come up next anyway, and it was asking about your work experience. So let's just do that with everybody. Even if they've said it before, it helps to hear these things repeated because it's a lot to absorb. So, Mr. Avalon, your work experience, please, and everybody else after that.
As I said before, I've been an educator for most of my life, which is quite a bit of time, actually. So 37 years public school education here in Kingston. I taught at Ulster County Community College, the intro course to the criminal justice program. I've taught methods and supervised student teachers at SUNY New Paltz. And through Ulster and SUNY New Paltz, I've taught at several area prisons in a program which gave inmates a chance at a college degree. So in the course of my career, I have been locked in the room several times with 30 felons at a time, trying to get them excited about the edict of Nine.
Thank you. Mr. Lambert.
February 1st, 1983, I was hired as a music teacher here in Kingston. I taught in Kingston until 1999. I was at Anna Devine for the first 9 years. The second 9 years I spent at Miller. I did my internship in administration with Brian Steves, my boss at the time. I accepted a job to go back to junior high in Newburgh in December '99 and stayed there until I retired in 2016.
Mr. Michael.
Well, I've been living in Kingston for the last 42 years since I immigrated to the States. I have spent most of my life in restaurants, diners, as a cook, a chef. And actually yesterday I had a little conversation with my colleague, Mr. Shear, and I said to her, you know something, I'm the only one who's not a teacher that's running for the school board. So I don't know if I'm on the disadvantage point or not, but For the last, for the last 7 years, I believe I've done an excellent job for the community and for our students. And I hope they get the opportunity to continue.
Thank you. Mr. Spicer.
Good evening, everyone, again. I started as a 6th grade teacher at PS 274 in Brooklyn. Then I taught migrant education in New Paltz. Then I taught 6th, 7th, and 8th grade special ed at the Poughkeepsie Middle School. Then I became the assistant principal of Hudson High School, and then the principal of Hudson High School. And then I became the principal of John L. Edwards Elementary School, and I just retired from that position in August. And the only reason why I retired is because they closed the school. Otherwise, I would have stayed. I absolutely love being an elementary school principal, but they closed my school, so here I am.
Thank you. There's another very easy question here that we can do very quickly. I think just how many, I'll actually read it to make sure I'm saying what they want. How long have you lived in the Kingston City School District? Lived in the Kingston City School District. That would be Mr. Lamb first.
I've lived in the district for 31 years total.
Mr. Michael.
I live in the district for 42 years since I immigrated to America, and I've been living in Kingston from day one.
Mr. Spicer.
My wife and I have lived in Ulster Park for 30 years.
Mr. Avalon.
I grew up in Kingston, lived here for a while, then moved to Saugerties, just moved back. So I've been in the Kingston School District since the beginning of May last year, not counting all my previous residency here.
Thank you. I just want to comment that a lot of this information is also on the website, and I don't think I've seen a website better about candidates than Kingston's. I must say I've not done a thorough search of this topic, but I know usually when I look for candidate information, it isn't so available. I also love that when you go on the website, you have to say that you read about the school vote. And that's amazing. So congratulations to whoever made that possible. I suppose Dr. Padalino is mainly to blame for that good work, as he does many good things. Yeah, there you are. I thought that was you. Anyway, thank you. Thank you for whom did you want to thank?
Miss Schufeldt, right there.
Oh, okay, Kristen. Hard time. No, but it's really great, and it shows that you really want the public to know about the candidates as well as the school vote and when it is and all that. And the League of Women Voters really tries to get people engaged in voting, and we thank our partners in that effort. But now, I'll go ahead and ask. We're going to need some questions up here, so if you don't ask them, I can't ask them, so please. But here are three, and one of them was the one that I just had asked, and the other one asked, you are all retired educators. When did you retire? And I think you just all answered that with the work question, right? Do you feel you did? I think you did. Is anyone? Okay. And then how many times have you voted in the Kingston School District election in the last 5 years is the next one. So that would be Mr. Michael, starting.
Well, I have always been a conscious voter, and I have never missed a vote, whether it's a national vote, local vote, or school vote.
Mr. Spicer.
My wife and I have never missed any vote, not even for dog catching. We vote for everything. Voting is very important, and also in my heritage, in my family, people died for me to have the right to vote, so I don't miss a vote.
Mr. Avalon.
This will be my first vote in the Kingston School District because I just moved back. So this will be the first vote for me for probably 20 years.
Mr. Lamb?
And I've never missed a vote in the district.
Okay. That's it here. So I'm going to ask a question that I'd like to hear. I don't think anybody really answered, dealt with this. And I think it would be Mr. Spicer. Would you just explain what you consider, each of you, what you consider the most important thing that the school board member does?
How much time do I have?
1 minute. Other people will get to answer it too, but the public needs to, know about the job as well as your priority.
Sure. I have 5 priorities. One, as was spoken already, safety is everyone's job. Also creating a culture of compassion. Every child walking into every school feeling immediately welcome and loved. You can't teach a child who does not feel safe and loved. You can't do it. 2, we need to address the needs of our changing student population. We have about 1,200 Hispanic students, and the number is only projected to grow. We need to anticipate and make sure we have the teachers and staff to support their needs in the coming years. I've been into a number of the elementary schools, and I found out, I didn't know this until I got there, there's another language that our children from Guatemala, I'm out of time.
Well, you get
I
2
got
seconds.
that 3.
It's a minute, and that's a warning.
Okay.
Hey,
Yes.
since there's so few questions, can we give them a little more time?
We can't, these I meant to have as fairly quick questions anyway, so, yes, we can. We can get them a little longer.
Oh,
It really, the question was really intended to be just, what the important part of the job of a school board member is, not necessarily a big thing.
Okay, then I'll abbreviate then. I was talking about ENL students a second ago. We need to make sure we meet that need as it grows in the coming years. We need to continue to support our children's rise in reading and math scores. Our graduation rate is 81%. The statewide average is also 81%. So we're on par with the rest of the state. But Kingston is not a district that's usually on par with anything. We're usually ahead of the game. So we need to continue to increase our graduation rates. And we need to continue the completion of all construction projects, the Mahar School project, the renovations, and the creation of our new preschool program.
Mr. Evelyn.
I think the primary function of a board member is a fiduciary one. Very similar to your household budget. You have a list of things that you'd like to do. You have a certain amount of money available, and that means you have to make choices. And hopefully the choices that are made are going to be ones that are going to really push forward the mission of the school district, which is to educate all children so that they can achieve their full potential. So I think that's all I say.
Mr. Lamb.
By definition, a school board member sets policy and approves a budget to go before the voters for the program that is being offered our students. As far as I'm concerned, the most important thing is that we put a responsible budget out there so that our students get the best education this community can afford, and the best and most pristine facilities such as this high school.
Mr. Michael.
I still believe my main concern always going to be the graduation rate, which my fears are the bigger influx of the Hispanic population. The number of English learners is getting higher and higher, and I always feel that the way to tackle the problem would be a big cooperation with the P-TECH programs in buses. I have a report I got a couple of days ago that says that our country is facing a massive unmet need for trade professionals, including plumbers, electricians, HVAC installers and appliances, and repair technicians. By the year 2028, there will be 3 million open jobs in the skilled trades. And one example of that is nearly half of all the U.S. electricians are projected to retire in the next 10 years, with no one trained to take their place. So that's will be my goal, to cooperate with the administration and see if we can encourage more kids to enroll in the P-TECH programs in BOSS.
Good, thank you. All right, since, did I get every, yes. Okay. Since 20% of the students are Latino, but the board does not represent in itself this population, how do you plan to, I can't read the word, but I think fix that gap is the translation of the word. Anyway, and so that would be Mr. Avalon first.
I think our conduit to the community at large are the children that we serve. Dealing with Hispanic children, in a broad sense, could be difficult to reach families because of their immigration status and their fear that by involving themselves in any sort of formal inquiry or help might put them and their family in jeopardy. But I do think that the way we reach them is through their children, and we follow that route to get to that community. I know Mr. Spicer has referenced that there are some Hispanic children that we even have difficulty communicating with, even Spanish-speaking children, speakers, because of their dialect and their where they're from. So this is a tough problem. My own view is I think we're lucky to live in what's been called a sanctuary city, and that makes our job reaching parents a little bit less onerous, I think.
Thank you. Mr. Lamb?
Our board does not, nor does our teaching staff or administration staff represent what this community is made up of. We started as a board, the board started a program, Today's Students, Tomorrow's Teachers, last year or the year before, to encourage African American students to come back and be teachers here so that we reflect what we have. The only way we're going to reflect is with open communication and encouraging, and I've got to be honest with you, if there was a Hispanic person running on this board, they would have my vote, because I believe that we do need that representation. We do not understand the problems. I took German in school. I did not take Spanish, and I regret it to this day, because when I did a parent-teacher conference and it was a Hispanic student, I had to have an interpreter or the student interpret for me back and forth to the parent. And we need to be addressing that. We need to be hiring teachers and administrators that can communicate with these students, and we need to be more open to that. Our community is changing.
Mr. Michael?
Myself and the rest of the board is responsible, the board members, we reach out to the Latino community and try to recruit, diversity in our board. And personally, I reach out to two of my good friends that were well-established businessmen in Kingston, well-respected. I tried to persuade them, but I failed. Sorry for that. So hopefully, maybe by next year, we'll be able to be more diversified and represent the whole community.
Thank you. Mr. Spicer?
It's a really good question, and no, it's definitely true that the best representatives of any particular community are members of that community. That's true. Having said that, I'll say this community is really benefited by this school board and its outreach to the Latino community to find out their specific needs on the ground. I attended, and this was before I was on the school board, I attended a coffee and conversation at a Latino church. What was the name of the church?
Vida Real.
At Vida Real, and it was outstanding. A large number of community members came out, and the pastor was also translating for a number of the families. And I was amazed at the concerns that they brought to the meeting, very concrete concerns that the parents had about pre-K programs and information about their children in school. So I'm just saying, this board and the information that I've already stated about the needs of our Hispanic students and their families have taken it totally to heart. Understand that the future and the challenges of this particular population of our community are our future. They advance, we advance. We're all one school district. And I really felt, and I was truly...
There's a red card time.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah, I know. The time is short, and I am getting some questions now, so you'll have a chance in your closing statements to go back to anything you'd like to pick up. Some of these questions bring up sort of related topics too. The next one is how important, totally different topic, how important do you believe it is for children to attend preschool? And that's Mr. Lamb, did you start last time?
I think it's very important for children to attend preschool because we have pushed down so much onto the kindergarten level. It helps with the children being prepared. They'll be more successful at the elementary level and high school level for that matter. My daughter attended a nursery school / preschool until she went to school. And the fact that we can offer that to our parents and to our children without the expensive cost that as a parent I had is something that we have needed and this board has supported, and it is something that is going to be a wonderful addition to our district when the center is up and running. The new center, sorry.
Thank you. Mr. Michael.
The early education is very important to the young kids today, and myself and some of my other colleagues, we started pushing this preschool about half of, the last 5 years or so, right, Mr. Charles? And after a long planning, a long challenge, we managed to have Mahar repurposed and ready to open in next September, and hopefully it'll be a health start for our youngsters in our community.
Thank you. Mr. Spicer.
We all know that kindergarten isn't what the kindergarten we attended. In kindergarten, they're doing math and they're reading now. And all the research is done. Pre-K is absolutely necessary. If you want a child, especially in one of our more struggling communities, to go to college, they have to go to pre-K. And you're talking to a man who's done kindergarten screening. We have our children who went to pre-K, who know their letters and know their colors, and then we have children who spent the first 4 years of their life doing nothing. And when I say to them in kindergarten screening, sweetie, point to the red block, and they say, what's a block? That's the difference between pre-K and not going to pre-K. It's not a choice anymore, especially for some of our struggling populations.
Thank you. Mr. Avalon.
I totally agree. Pre-K is the training wheels for kindergarten. The earlier that we can start kids on what we would call the basics, the more further ahead we get. Usually, by not doing it, when they arrive in this building, we can clearly see the difference. So that's something that we absolutely have to guarantee to all kids in the district.
All right. Well, this question is a little long. Graduation rate has been mentioned frequently. How does each candidate feel about the importance of preparing students to be ready for the real world if they do not want to go on to further education? Mr. Michael.
Well, I already believe I made this comment earlier, but I can't repeat myself. I was a product of a Waltech school. I always believe it's the best choice for a lot of kids that will now wish to go to college. And as I said before, it's going to be a great demand for a lot of trained workers in a lot of different trades. So it's something I hope I'll be able to accomplish with the administration and with the help of bosses. So that will be one of the elements that will help the graduation rate, be higher.
Mr. Spicer.
I agree with what Mr. Michael said, and that is the answer. Not all students want to go on after high school to college. Many of them want to go on directly to a career or some technical career, and that is the answer. That's the answer. That we need technical programs like the programs offered through BOCES for our children. That's the answer.
Mr. Avalon.
I think what I heard in the question was, what can we do as a district to prepare kids after they're chosen to leave school, correct?
I just read it the way it was, and I
well,
was a little confused too, but they connected, the person who asked the question connected those two
I
things.
agree that the BOCES programs are wonderful, and we do need skilled tradesmen, but I think before we can even get there, we have to look at why this kid, for whatever reason, has decided to leave public education at the age of 16 or 17. What were the causes that impelled them to do that? One could argue that if they had the wherewithal to stay, they probably would have chosen those programs in BOCES. So the fact is that they're floating. They don't have a direction. Now, what can we do? Can we prepare? Can we counsel? Sure. Can we find them a job? Probably not. Can we leave the door open so they can come back anytime, any place, for whatever reason? Do we offer night school? That might be a good way for some kids to sort of bridge the gap.
It's a red card, right? I need to call you on time.
Okay, sorry.
And again, anything you need to go back to, you can do later. Mr. Lamb.
Vocational is a very important track or pathway for graduation. The state has finally allowed more leeway with that from 5 years ago. I still need the person who cuts my hair. I still need the person who fixes my car, because quite frankly, I can't, all right? And it's an important craft. It's an important track. One of my former students owns 2 hair salons in Manhattan and is making a lot more than I made as a teacher who went to college. And she's an extremely successful business person, and that's what is important. Are they adding, can we give them a track where they can add to society and make a living and pay taxes for education for others in the future? And that's what vocational training should be, and we should allow more of it today and encourage more of it.
All right. Another question? I think I got everybody. How would you describe yourself as a member of a team? And that's Mr. Spicer starts.
It's an interesting question. How would I describe myself as a member of the team? Boss gags. Sorry. How would I describe myself as a member of a team? Being a teacher and coming through the whole educational system, you can only be part of a team to get anything done. All of your ideas. I remember when I went to Harvard to learn how to become a principal, and I had all these great ideas. How much time do I have?
Just
wait a second. And I had all these great ideas about how to run a school. And 4 other senior principals said to me, I said, I'm going to go back to my school, I'm going to rally these teachers, and we're going to get all these things done. They said, no, that's not how you get things done. And they explained about being part of a team and allowing the teachers to absorb your ideas. So I'm just saying, coming through the whole educational system and eventually becoming a principal, you learn how to be a valuable member of a team, and not just in words, but understanding the team is how you get things done, and you are part of the team, even though sometimes as a principal you may be the leader of the team. Time?
okay. Thank you. Mr. Avalon.
In education, above anything else, teamwork is absolutely essential. There isn't one single individual anywhere that has the answer to the question, how do kids learn? It requires a team approach. If I had the answer to that question, I would write the book and I would be on Stephen Colbert or not. So it absolutely is a team approach. Has to be. And I like being on the team.
Mr. Lamb.
First of all, I was so excited when I went to Newburgh because I got to be a member of a team, because as a music teacher in Kingston, we were not included on teams in the middle school philosophy when I was here. I was on the building leadership team in Kingston, I was on BLT, I was on the building leadership teams in Newburgh. I hired half the staff as a member of the team when I was in Newburgh. I still go back for my team, whether it's social studies, English, or science, 10 days a year. I will sub for them when they have to be out for testing or other things, because I get to be a member of that team. And those kids, not only the students, but the kids that I hired as my team members and as our staff members, they are part of my family. And music is a team, and music is a team sport. Kristen was on my team and Bill learned 6th grade chorus.
Thank you. Mr. Michael?
Well, I would like to answer this a little bit different way. Being a successful member of a team, you have to learn two things to do. Listen to your teammates, try to understand them, and above all, you should respect your teammates and yourself. As in the military terms, they say one for all for one.
We got everybody, right? All right, this is Mr. Avalon starting. The State Education Department has cited the district for a third straight year for needing intervention in its special education program. What are the plans to address, it says, plans to address this?
I would have to do some research in terms of what the district is doing now and what the actual gaps are. And I would approach that from the point of view that my son had a special ed diagnosis. And so I'm very familiar from the parent side of it in terms of what special needs kids need. So I really can't speak with any authority about what the district should do until I find out what the district is doing and specifically what the state is aiming at. What are they particularly aiming at?
Mr. Lamb?
I also agree, I have no idea exactly what they're being cited for. I would have to wait and I would have to hear from not only the administrative team of special ed and our superintendent's answers to what we're being cited for. I would also be interested in what the parent perspective and the state perspective is before you could ever make a decision on what we're being cited for. There are so many mandates in special education and so many unfunded mandates in special education as in all other areas of education. I can't jump on a bandwagon until I know what the problem is.
Thank you. Mr. Michael?
Yeah, I have to reiterate from my colleagues over here. As it was said, the state keeps sending these mandates with no funding behind it, and they expect us to be able to accomplish all their demands with not enough support. And that's what I would like to say.
All right, Mr. Spicer?
Since I started attending the school board meetings years ago, I have observed your district is just outstanding at using disaggregated data down to the child to find out what every child needs to support them. I would say our struggling special ed students have a great deal of support in this district, and that is the key to using your resources the best you can and providing the best services you can to lift up every child. Your district is just outstanding at that. And since being on the school board, watching one principal come to the board at a time with specific disaggregated data down to specific children is outstanding. And after those presentations are done, board members are able to lean into it and say, this is where we need to provide more resources.
Have I got everybody? I think this next one is for Mr. Lamb. Early college programs are becoming more and more important. Why do you think that's true? This may be a quick one, I don't know.
Early college programs are important because education is becoming very expensive. My daughter will graduate from Kingston High School with a year, or a semester at least, minimal under her belt, that she will not need to do, and the programs in this district and that we offer our kids as far as advanced courses are phenomenal. It's one of the reasons when I sold my house in Woodstock, I moved to Kingston because I knew what we offer our children. And those programs get our kids into schools, it gets our kids started out early, and they're at an advantage when it comes to job. I finished the semester early, that's why I started the end of January, February 1st in this district.
Thank you. Mr. Michael?
Yes, the last few years we have managed to implement some of these programs cooperation with the Austin Community College, especially since we repurpose Sophie Finn School, that the kids now in advanced classes can take some college courses, and also with the BOSS program, with the P-TECH. So today, early education is always, there should be an advantage, and we should encourage the kids to do that.
Mr. Spicer?
When I think about our students who are taking the AP classes and then going on to colleges, for all the introductory freshman classes they don't have to take, and the money their parents are saving, I just want to break dance. It's just outstanding. There is no district that doesn't benefit from advanced placement programs. And I've noticed in our district, the number of students taking advantage of these programs is phenomenal. We have to continue to support them, and we have to continue to support our high school students who are able to take these levels of classes. There's no downside. There's just no downside.
Mr. Evelyn?
Everything they said, plus having taught AP and honors kids in Kingston High School for a gazillion years, these courses keep those kids involved. We are feeding kids that are hungry for that level of discussion, that level of investigation, that sort of academic rigor. And oftentimes we look at the kids who are sort of at the bottom of the academic level, but when you have heterogeneously mixed classes, you also run a danger of losing the brightest kids because they're sort of treading water while everybody else is sort of catching up. And these courses at a high school level are essential for keeping those kids involved, not to mention the cost savings for parents. So they work both ways.
Gotcha. I want to just do a time check. There's no clock here, but how many minutes are you in charge, Dr. Padalino? The parent, who would like to tell me how much longer you want to run? Well, they're
6:52, I think we usually do 90 minutes.
And I just want to be sure that people don't have to leave and then miss the closing remarks and so forth. That'll take 10 minutes right there.
7:30, so you have 38 minutes.
All right, I'll proceed if that's all right with everybody. I'll try to do all these. I just thought I would start weeding if you wanted me to. All right, this is pretty different from anything else you had. How would you respond to a parent who calls with a complaint about a faculty member? And I think it's Mr. Michael, right?
The first thing they should do is you follow the chain of command instead of calling the administration. And that's all I advise the parent to do. You go to the teacher, go to the principal of the building, and then you can follow the chain of command from there if it was advised to go to the administration.
Mr. Spicer?
As a principal and at the high school and at the elementary school level, my door was always open for parents, always. So usually board members don't talk to principals following the chain of command, go to the superintendent. But even if I got a call from the superintendent saying, Mr. Harris has a real problem, I would say to the superintendent, you got to tell Mr. Harris to give me a call. Or tell him to come and see me because my door is always open. And any sort of three-way, four-way type of conversations just dilutes the problem-solving process. So I would respect the chain of command. I would tell the parent, you need to talk to the superintendent or you need to talk to the principal. That's the fastest way to solve the problem.
Mr. Evelyn?
Yeah, I would certainly be, I would commiserate. I wouldn't necessarily agree with them, but I would want them to feel that this was not a wasted phone call. I would speak to them about protocol. I sort of bristle at the chain of command idea. And then hold the door open to them, that ultimately if going through all of these steps doesn't work, there is a public board meeting and they are entitled to come and speak to the entire board in a public forum. So that would be my answer.
Mr. Lamb?
I would have to advise the parent that they need to follow the chain of command. I would also ask that I really don't want to be involved in what they did. It needs to go through a principal, it needs to, and I would tell them that if they would like, I would let the principal know, or the direct supervisor of that person know that there was an issue and they would be contacting them. But direct personnel matters are not a position of the board. The board gets recommendations from the superintendent as far as what is going on with personnel and what the steps of action are going to be. That's not a board member's decision.
All right, I think we got everybody. There are two that deal with diversity. I'm going to read them together. I think they go together, and we've addressed this a little bit, so I don't want to keep repeating. We have a very diverse student body, but a teaching staff that is not very diverse. I mean, we talked about board before. What would you do to change this? And then how crucial is it to encourage the Hispanic community to engage with the board and the district? And that, I believe we're back to Mr. Spicer.
Yeah. When I was, first of all, to state a diverse teaching and staff population is vital for the success, especially of a district this diverse. And in particular, there are critical issues and problems that can't be solved by other people outside of certain communities. For example, I don't know that language that certain Latino children are bringing from Guatemala. It's very unusual, and the really challenging part of that language is you can speak Spanish to them and they don't understand what you're saying. So we need help. We need members of that community to come and help us so we can reach these children. We also have children who are coming in from say, Guatemala or other Latino countries that not only speak a challenging dialect of Spanish, they've never been to school. So they're 8 and 10 years old, and not only is this their first day of school, they don't speak the language of almost anybody there.
Thank you. Mr. Avalon?
That's a long question.
I
Well,
think that,
and we can go back on that if you feel, if by the time we're done, we feel that we need to, because it was a double question and they are a little different, so we'll give it another go through if you like. But go ahead and do a minute each for now.
She's saying, go ahead.
Mr. Avalon.
We're gonna wrap back up.
okay. The diversity problem that we face in terms of recruiting staff, I would venture to say we're not alone in that. But the kinds of people that we want are wanted up and down the Hudson Valley. What we have going for us is we live in a great community, a community that's been supportive of a fine educational system. Kingston is starting to get its mojo back a little bit. Technology has made us not so far out of the loop. So I think that we're as competitive as anyone in trying to attract those people to this community to teach. I'm not sure how big the pool is to draw those folks. I recall when I was on the Community Services Board of the Ulster County Legislature, we all decided that we needed more psychiatrists in Kingston. Try to find them. So I think a good faith effort is being made to recruit those people. We have a great,
Time on that.
if you know anybody.
Mr. Lamb.
I moved to Kingston for the diversity. I grew up in a suburbia district of 99% white, middle class, Protestant students and faculty. I wanted my daughter to see what the real world was. I wanted my daughter to have friends that I did not have until I went off to college, many good friends. Diversity is an extremely important part. That's part of our problem as a society. We don't accept differences of people. We do not accept that you can be a different religion, you can be a different ethnic group, you can be a different race and still be the most incredible person on the face of the earth. As far as teaching goes, I know if we were even in a worse situation in Newburgh, we begged teachers of different races and ethnic groups to come because our children needed to see role models that looked like them. It doesn't work when you're all standing up and you're trying to teach kids that have nothing that looks similar to them.
Thank you. Mr. Michael.
Since being on the board for the last 7 years, we have been pushing for diversity in teachers, Black educators or Latino educators, but it seems like year after year we'll be hitting the wall, and this is the reason for the lack of applicants. I do not know why we don't get enough applicants, for our positions. Hopefully, in the last 2 years since we introduced today's students, tomorrow's teachers, hopefully we'll be able to keep some of our own kids when they graduate to stay home. Don't go away.
And can we move back?
Yeah, I'm gonna, and I'll start with Mr. Lamb and we'll come back around with everybody. I don't think we addressed the second part very much, so I'm gonna read that again. I mean, we addressed teaching diversity, teacher diversity, but it was,
about reaching out to the Hispanic community. And how important do you think that is?
It's extremely important. It's the same for any ethnic group or any, we should be reaching out to make our staff, our schools should reflect what our community is. And I would hope that at some point we will. And like Mr. Michael said, today's student, tomorrow's teachers is a wonderful program if this really works, because we need to get kids to come back. We need to get kids to show their friends and their families that's okay. You don't have to be white to be a teacher. You don't have to be white to be, everybody is welcome to teach them. We need to give them something here that's offered to them, because there really is nothing in our community for those students once they come back here. There aren't as many opportunities in the community as well as the schools.
Mr. Michael.
It's my turn. Well, as I said before, we as a board have tried, several times to approach the Latino community to get involved, and that's would be under our benefit. If it's like in any small group you're in, you tend to mingle with your own people. You're always afraid to reach out to the other community. So the Latino community in our area is getting bigger and bigger by the day, and so hopefully we'll be able to get more involved in our education.
Mr. Spicer.
I am the first African-American high school principal and elementary school principal in Columbia County. Before I left that district, I hired the first African-American elementary school teacher, the first African-American male nurse, the first Latino counselor, the first African-American special education teacher. And entering the board, I would imagine the board would have understood that I have a firm commitment to bringing on and understanding the need for professionals of color. But I'll also say, in all of our meetings and in all of our workshops, this board is desperately committed to that proposition. It's not just talk. All of the programs they're trying to put forward, the major emphasis is on trying to get staff and support staff of color. It's really, as Mr. Lamb said, it's a really difficult thing to do, but the board is putting a lot of energy into that.
Mr. Avalon.
I just want to also reiterate what Mr. Lamb said about diversity in this building. I recall people would ask me where I taught, and I was at Kingston High School, and this was in the area, and they'd look at me like it was blackboard jungle. And yet you would come into this building and you could hear a pin drop. It was about the business of education. So I do think that this is a real world community, And if you look at the kids that are here, they're accepting, they're open, they're broad, it's fabulous, it's just wonderful. Now, if we have children in elementary school that have difficulty with the language, I would bet dollars to donuts that their parents do also. So sending, I know several Hispanic families, and this fellow was working for me, and his son was in 2nd grade, and his son got this fabulous report from his teacher, and his son read it to his father, and his father wanted to believe him desperately, but couldn't read it, and brought Julio to me with the note, and I read the note to his father, and I said, it's exactly what Julio said. And Julio said, Dad, when are you going to believe me? And the kid was in 2nd grade.
So I've got to call you on time, I hate to.
Okay. The other thing, I'm just going to take it.
Well,
1 minute.
then I have to do it for everybody, and it puts me in a bad spot. So you're going to get your shot, so remember what you'd like to go back to. There are just 2 more questions here, and one is a good one to end on, so I'm going to do this one. What is a program of initiative of the Board of Ed that you would like to work to continue or advance? A program or initiative of the board that you would work to continue or advance. And that is...
Is it me? It's okay.
No.
Mr. Michael, right? Yeah, that's what
It's my turn?
Yep.
Well, I said I already mentioned which program I would love to see more, have a lot of more students, encourage them to enroll in the PTA program. And there's such a great programs. We're starting out with the 9th grade academy. Should they continue their education for 6 years, and they be able to get, the graduation of Dawson Community College. So that's one of my main goals. Would be encouraging more kids to get involved in technical trades.
Mr. Spicer.
I have so many. I just wanted to say this too. I think it's on the same lines that I'm proud that we passed a budget which is 54% dedicated toward instruction. That's an initiative we need to continue. If it's true that you should put your money where your mouth is, this school board put most of its funds to support its teachers, learning, and children. The next largest amount was 28% toward benefits, but that's contractual. But I think it's just outstanding that this school district puts, and went out of its way to put most of its money toward instruction and children and teachers. That just says a lot.
Mr. Evelyn.
I think I agree with Mr. Spicer that the budget priorities in this budget are fine with me, and I would encourage anything that could foster pre-K, early education for younger kids in our community, however creatively we need to attack that.
Mr. Lamb.
The program I would like to see most advanced would be the restorative justice program that Dave Clegg presented to our board. If children are out of school, if children are being suspended, if children are not in school, they're not going to learn. Students are not going to learn. There are ways to work around that. There is that program, when he presented it, I took every piece of paper that was handed out at that board meeting, and I handed it to my principal, and I said, this is what we need. And I gotta tell you, we were on the cutting edge in this district, but it seems to not be moving as quickly as I would like to see it move, and quite frankly, that would be one of my big pushes.
Mr. Michael. No, you start.
Yes, of course.
All right, this is kind of fun because you get to disagree. You all seem to agree on most issues. On what issues do you disagree? What strong stances do you have that differentiate you from the other candidates? And Mr. Spicer, please.
I can't say I've heard enough of the issues that we disagree upon. I'm not going to answer the question because being on the school board, it's an incredibly dynamic and positive group, and even when we do disagree. It comes down to particular points, but not on the whole goal of what we're trying to accomplish. And I would say, as far as the gentleman I'm on the dais with, we seem to have the same positive outlook on education. And I also agree with Mr. Lamb about restorative justice. And actually, so does the whole board, that we need to put a lot of energy into that to fine tune that program. But I don't know of any we disagree on.
Mr. Avalon?
I'm trying to make a joke out of not agreeing, but I agree. I think it would come down to a case-by-case basis. I think it's important that any member of the board go in with an open mind and listen to the arguments presented on whatever the issue is, and then come down on whatever side you feel is the correct side, moving toward compromise, because that's really what it's all about. So you can disagree without being disagreeable.
Mr. Lamb?
I honestly don't find that the four of us, or Ms. Jordan for that matter, have that many strong disagreements. I think we're all looking out for what is in the best interest of children. I want to give back to the community and give back to the students that I had. They gave me everything for my 35 years. If I asked kids to do something, they did it. And quite frankly, Blackboard Jungle, not Kingston High School. Come down to Newburgh sometime.
Mr. Michael?
As I said earlier, been on the board for the last 7 years, and I believe we have to always work together with the rest of my colleagues, and I don't feel I have any problem working with my fellow candidates here. And as I said before, I found two words are very important: to work as a team, to listen and respect. And disagreements, they can work, they can have, work out with not let the issues extended.
All right. We can go to closing statements if people have no other questions. Does anyone want to bring a last question forward? Wasn't a lot on budgets, but I get the feeling that people everywhere are kind of calming down on that topic. I don't know why. But, all right, we'll go to then that would be Mr. Avalon starting. With that, you have 2.5 minutes, and can you give them a half-minute warning? So after 2 minutes, if you're still talking, she'll give you a yellow card to warn you. And I want to thank Kristen for doing this. As she said, I just hate this job because she has to tell you people to be quiet. I hate it too. But here's your opportunity now to say whatever you
So
want.
first of all, thank you all for coming and staying awake. The benefit of sitting up here, of course, having taught for that long, I know when you're asleep. So thank you for paying attention to all of us. I think it's a great honor to run for the school board. And as my mom would say, who would have thunk it? But here we are, and I have a great deal of respect for all of my colleagues here, and especially for my friend Suzanne, who, if she were here, would be the star. So thank you all for coming.
Again, I'd like to reiterate that thank you for being here. The most important thing is that people vote, people get out. We have shortened voting hours. We have only 3 locations where people are going to vote. If the normal amount of votes, if the figures are right, it's like 150 people per hour who have to vote in that short time. I'm very concerned about that. Budget could go down with a small turnout. So I would ask that everybody come out, everybody support and vote your conscience. And thank you for having us here.
Mr. Michael?
Yeah, I have worked with several of my colleagues together for quite some time now, and I believe we have accomplished many initiatives like the Maha Pre-K program, bilingual education. We have pushed for the greater diversity in teachers hiring. We have been purpose most of our schools that we have closed, and the rest we have sold them. Our 21st century project is almost completed. We have placed great emphasis on mental health in our schools, and the importance of the PBAS and the restoration of justice so we can keep our students in school, not send them home. Well, they're not in school, they're not learning. So now I'm asking you to give me the opportunity to continue our mission, to prepare our students for a greater future and encourage them so they can reach their dreams and their aspirations. And so please come out and vote for the future of the Keystone School District on May 21st. Voting hours of this year, only this year, will be 3 to 9 p.m. So,
Okay, Mr. Spicer.
I am already proud and grateful to serve on your school board. We have a good deal of work left to do, and you can be proud that you already have a dedicated, accomplished, hard-working team of school board members. As a number of you know, I've been reading to your children. I want to serve because I simply love children, and I've spent my life serving them. I'm asking for your vote to continue to be on this team and to be a continued member of the school board. And I want to thank you all for coming out tonight. And as the rest of the board members have said, please come out and vote, and also please bring a neighbor or a relative to the polls with you. Thank you.
Thank you all. And the website, again, please go to that, not only to admire Kristen's good work on reminding you all about the vote, but it tells the hours and the polling locations and all those things that you need to know. It covers it beautifully, so I hope you'll take advantage of that. And thank you, everybody, for participating.